Welcome to Study Loop.
Hi, my name is Chaim Chernoff, and in today's lesson, we're going to talk about how scientists can study and do experimentation on ecosystems. So the first way that they can do so is by using a mesocosm. And what a mesocosm is when scientists take a part of a natural setting and use it for study, right? So they take a part of a natural setting for study. So for instance, if there is a large forest, which scientists want to study, what they may do is mark off a section of it and put cameras and other kinds of instruments to take data and study just the mesocosm to get some information about the entire ecosystem, the entire forest. The second way that scientists can study ecosystems is through the use of a microcosm. So a microcosm is where instead of taking a part of the natural setting, scientists attempt to recreate the ecosystem in a lab environment. So once again, if you have some kind of forest over here, what scientists may attempt to do is, right, their lab is over here, nice house, not such a great lab, but you understand, and they might take bits and pieces of the animals that live there and the vegetation that lives in this ecosystem, put in the lab and study it and do experiments on it in the lab. The problem with both a microcosm and a mesocosm is that you're altering the ecosystem and that may affect your results, right? You're only going to be able to recreate the ecosystem in your lab. You can't ever duplicate it exactly. There's going to be slight changes. And by putting in things like cameras and tape and other things in the natural setting, you may disturb it, which may affect your results. So the other ways that ecosystems can be studied is through conceptual models. So conceptual models is where you use flow charts to show the interaction within the ecosystem in order to predict the effects of disturbances. Right. So one famous kind of conceptual model is, of course, the food web, where you have animals and they get eaten by or plant life that gets eaten by animals, which then get eaten by other animals, and you get a food web of some sort. And by doing so, you're able to show that if you get rid of this, you're going to affect larger parts of the ecosystem. But again, they do have some flaws in that they aren't obviously predictive. It's not obviously predictive what will happen if you lose some of these or only or just parts of a part of the web. So in order to get more accurate predictions, there are two systems that can be used: is either analytic models or simulation models. So what analytic models try to do is use math formulas in order to try to predict the effects of specific disturbances. So they try to use some kind of math. This is just the equation for a linear graph, right? So perhaps if f of x is the number of lions and x is the number of gazelles, they may, so you're able to predict if gazelles go down by how many, how that will affect the lion population. A simulation model is using a computer algorithm. So this is my computer, and try to simulate in order to make predictions on complex algorithms. So where the analytic model is useful because it's easy to kind of read just from human eyes, f of x, a linear equation, is well known. Sometimes ecosystems are much more complex and need algorithms, and therefore computers can be used to study ecosystems. So the 5 ways that we've shown how ecosystems can be studied is through a mesocosm, taking a part of the natural setting; microcosm, trying to recreate that ecosystem in a lab environment; a conceptual model, which is a flow chart showing interactions; and analytic and simulation models, which try to use some kind of math formula or computer algorithm to make predictions.